Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Reference Point. I'm your host, Dave Coker-Hook. Welcome back for this second installment of the conversation with Dr. Rao of the climatehealers.org organization. Salish, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me, David.
So, a couple of things. At the end of our last episode, we were talking about the transference from the three primary destructive axioms that that we're working with right now as a species, and then into the three that are going to be more harmonious with life and the planet and whatever. And I'm going to want to dig into that a little more deeply. I told the folks at the end of the last one that we were going to do that. But before we do, I wanted to ask you about something, because when we hear the rhetoric about greenhouse gases and emissions from the mainstream media, almost all the time they're talking about CO2. So, you can't drive your car because it gives CO2. You can't breathe because you put out CO2, and blah, blah, everything puts out CO2. But there are other gases that have an impact that are equal to or greater than that. Is that correct?
Yeah, on an annual basis, methane causes more heating incrementally than the CO2 you're emitting.
And why is that?
Because methane is much more powerful as a greenhouse gas, because methane concentration in the atmosphere is not as much as the CO2 concentration. So think of it as, each molecule of methane doesn't see too many other methane molecules around it, right?
Yeah.
And so every molecule has a certain frequency range over which it obstructs energy. So it reflects energy back.
Okay.
Right? So methane works in a different band than CO2. So there it's only other methane molecules that are going to compete with the methane molecule. And it sees very few of them, because methane concentration is about 2 parts per million in the atmosphere. Whereas CO2, there is 420 parts per million, right?
So it makes it sound like, just from those numbers, that CO2 is the primary.
It's the primary one, but methane, each molecule of methane you're emitting is actually 130 times more powerful than the CO2 molecule you're emitting.
Really?
Because we are adding to the 420 parts per million, right? And so whatever we're adding doesn't have that much of an impact, because there are already enough CO2 molecules that are covering that frequency range.
Oh, okay.
Right? So methane molecules, every new molecule they're adding actually is having a huge impact. And the methane molecules, they react with oxygen in the atmosphere and become CO2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they become CO2 and they become water, right? So that's a methane. Methane is like CH4. And when it reacts with H2O, you'll get, when you react with oxygen, it becomes H2O and CO2.
Okay, cool.
So methane is constantly becoming CO2. So every methane molecule you add to the atmosphere becomes CO2. And the half-life is like 80 years.
What is the source of methane, the primary source of methane?
Is that just decaying matter? It's anything that decays without oxygen causes methane. Okay, so landfills do that. Okay?
Landfills?
They put out methane. Landfills. Because it's decaying and there is not enough oxygen when they are deep in a landfill. Landfill is just a big mountain of garbage, right?
Oh, well, yeah, no, we got plenty of them here in the U.S., for sure.
I know.
We built cities on top of them.
Yeah, we built. Yeah. They put out methane. Natural gas pipelines, they leak methane. Okay. Or fossil fuel lines, when you dig for oil, there's methane that comes out as well. Or when you have coal mining, methane comes out as well.
Okay.
And they're supposed to just cap it off, but it's supposed to be on a voluntary basis. So if you do something on a voluntary basis,
it doesn't get done. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Doesn't get it done. Yeah. But even despite all that, the main source is animal agriculture still, because animals, ruminant animals like cows and goats, they eat and then they regurgitate. So it digests in their stomach, and they regurgitate, chew it again, and it goes into the next stomach,
Right.
right? So they do that like 3 or 4 times because they have 4 stomachs, multiple stomachs.
Right.
That's their digestive process. So every time they regurgitate, methane comes out of their mouths
Okay.
because it's digesting without oxygen in their stomach.
Oh, okay. So the decaying what needs to have oxygen around in proximity to be able um, to mitigate the methane.
Yeah, if it had oxygen, it would have become CO2.
It would have become CO2. Okay. But the
Right.
big challenge is that each methane molecule has a substantially greater impact on the warming capabilities than because of its the range of radiation, I guess, that it impacts. All right. I don't fully understand the science, but I get the point.
Yeah, you get the point, right? So I say that on an annual basis, the methane from animal agriculture causes more heating than the CO2 from all fossil fuel sources combined.
Wow.
Okay, so we can calculate and show that that's the case. So this is why I say, you need to get the methane out. That's the quickest bang that we can get.
Right.
If we stop the methane emissions, we will start cooling the earth quicker.
Right.
Than anything else you can do. Because methane is causing, along with the water, because when the methane molecules react with oxygen, they produce water. Water
Right.
is also a greenhouse gas.
Water
In fact,
is a
it's
greenhouse.
the primary greenhouse gas is water vapor.
Water vapor
Right.
is a greenhouse gas. Okay.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can get that. It's like humidity.
Yeah, it's humidity, right?
Yeah.
So water vapor, the water vapor that methane molecules create, because they're reacting with the oxygen in the upper atmosphere. And so the water vapor is being produced in the upper atmosphere. So it becomes very potent as a greenhouse gas. So if you take that into account, methane is causing roughly 1 watt per square meter of heating.
Okay. So something you said in the first show was that even when you look at what the analysis, the scientific representation of this phenomenon, everything associated with the emissions and the impact of certain gases, et cetera, that information is presented to, for instance, that the IPCC, when they get that, and then it goes in, and the governments have to decide and feel comfortable with what they're going to put out. It is the challenge in my mind is that the factual information that is presented is not being fully transferred to the people at large, right? They're continuing to be represented by the 3 axioms that we talked about earlier, that are the 3 axioms and pillars that are creating a non-viable environment, the consumption base, and the the third one had to do with
supremacism and hunger.
Yes, and so how do we? The question becomes, how do you break that? And before we go into that, because I keep wanting to come back to that, because I mentioned it the last one, but I do think that it makes sense to discuss a little bit more the new pillars that we should build our social structure upon. So we touched on them at the end of the last show, but if we could dig into it a little bit more, I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah. So the new pillars are basically looking for happiness within ourselves and teaching people that, teaching everyone that right from school. So the education system has to change. So I say the transformation that we need to get to a sustainable civilization it changes everything. We have to change our economic system, our political system, how we govern ourselves, how we make decisions, our financial system, or our education system. the kind of sports we play, because we play competitive sports. In fact, most of the sports we play uses the skin of an animal. So we are showing who is superior, who's the boss.
Right, right.
Because we take the skin of an animal, we bat it around, or we throw it around, and then we see who's the winner, who's the loser.
Right.
Now, winning and losing is not part of a sustainable civilization. Sustainability is about playing an infinite game.
I agree with that.
Because sustainability is about playing the game as long as you want to.
So the challenge, one of the challenges, obvious challenge, is the economics and the political and other levels of control that people feel the need for, that are involved with and running those all of that stuff. So
Right.
if we were able to snap our fingers and say, boom, we're going to make this change, how would we sustain? Because everyone has this vision that if none of this were available right now, everybody's going to die because we don't have a way to do this, that, or the other thing,
Right.
which is not true. I get that. But how do we manage to present that information,
Right.
the reality versus the disinformation?
Yeah, we have to realize that we have been running a Ponzi scheme on this planet. The entire economic system is a giant Ponzi scheme, right? So the Fed is actually running a huge Ponzi scheme.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And it's well known. It's not like I'm selling you something different, something that no one knows. No, it's everyone admits that. That's what it is. Any Ponzi scheme depends on growth to sustain itself, which is why we keep trying to grow the economy. Everyone, right? We keep trying to grow. Everyone wants to grow, because if you don't grow, you die.
Right.
That's a system we have, right? So that's a Ponzi scheme. And so ultimately, there are people who are contributing to this Ponzi scheme at the bottom who are not getting much for what they're contributing.
Right.
Like people who are growing rice, they get paid like 5 cents a pound for the rice they're growing, even though the rice is being sold for $2 a pound in the supermarket here.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Because we say that that's the game. And you happen to be a rice farmer in the game, and sucks for you. That's the way we deal with it, right?
Right.
That's how and this is so much unfairness built into the system. And especially animals. Animals are literally giving away their bodies. They're dying for us.
Yes, indeed.
And they get nothing out of it. Okay? They actually get more and more suffering as a result of that.
Yeah.
And so that's the system we have. And I'm saying that is unsustainable. And that Ponzi scheme is going to collapse. Why? Because there won't be any more animals left. Or we've killed them all off.
So,
or, we have destroyed everything. So it's going to collapse, right?
So is there something to the shift, right, to the sustainable side provides what for the does it need an economic component? Is it become an economic engine in and of itself?
Yeah, it will form an economic engine of itself, and it will be based on health and happiness and harmony.
Right.
Because currently we have a economic system that's based on death and disease and destruction.
Right.
Okay, death for the animals, diseases for human beings, because we are literally being farmed to get sick.
Yes, no, I agree with that. Okay, right. So is there a beginning for this new economic engine that is in place, or being, a little bit here, a little bit there, or is there something that we can see and point to and build from?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, the picture behind me is a forest in the Western Ghats of India, and that used to be a coffee plantation like 20 years ago. So, and, someone came and said, okay, I want to buy this coffee plantation and give it back to the animals. And the forest came back. So this is the restorative economy that we need to be creating. So it's not just a few people who have access to money who can come and do this. Everyone should be able to do what's happening behind me,
Right.
And why? Because they can then plant fruit trees and they can live off the land. So they don't have to depend on lots of inputs coming from all over for their food.
Right.
So ultimately, as human beings, we only need three things. We need food, clothing, shelter, and of course, the community that provides it, right? And with that, we are fine. We'll survive, we'll thrive. Okay? And the animals will thrive too, because that's all they need too. They don't even need clothing and shelter.
Right.
They find it themselves.
Well, exchange, trade is one of those things that came about because a group of people from one location came across a group of people from another location, and they saw that there were different things. And I said, ooh, that looks interesting. I have this, you have that, I'll give you some of mine, you give me some of yours, okay? So sort of a barter type of economic structure. So what do you envision here? How does this grow to be an economic engine as well as a life sustainability engine?
Yeah, so it will. So I see there will be trade. There will be trade for things that we need in different locations, and then each one of us will be responsible for the watershed. So each community will be responsible for the watershed in that area, and then from there to the ecosystems in that area. So we will be dividing ourselves based on natural boundaries, not artificial boundaries that some fellow drew on a map hundreds of years ago, right? Right? So that's how we are governing ourselves today. And we are governing ourselves to protect the property rights of the rich.
Right.
That's what we're governing mainly for, to protect so you have laid claim for 10,000 acres of land. Let's say you're Bill Gates. And I don't know, I think it's 10 million acres of land or whatever he's laid claim for.
He's got a lot of it. He grows everything.
So that means there are thousands of policemen who are protecting his property for him.
Right.
I mean, he's not even paying them. We are paying for the policemen, right? Because that's how we are organized ourselves. We have organized ourselves to protect the property rights of each other. And so those who have the most property get the most protection.
Sure.
That's the system we have created. I say in future, for a sustainable civilization, we should be organizing ourselves to protect and cultivate the health of the planet. Right? And so that's our main aim, not to protect each other's property, but to protect the health of the planet and all the animals that live in the planet. Their health is important to us. Right? That if they thrive, we will thrive. So this is why we need to be looking out for them, for the wild animals. Right now, we are killing wild animals.
No, I get it. I get it.
They are eating our property.
I get also the reality of it's an ecosystem. It is. Well, you've talked about it at the very beginning. It's a system. Okay, and if how you interact within the system puts more in than it takes out, then you're going to be in a good way. Where there's still going to be trees that are the uses for wood. There's still going to be uses for bamboo. There's going to be all this sort of stuff, but cotton, etc. But the level of exploitation, if I can use that term, will be greatly diminished in the kind of structure that you've identified. Okay.
Right.
It's not that we're all going to go running around in loincloths again, though that might be kind of cool for some people. It's not, that's not the intent. The intent is a mutually beneficial structure that for humans and every other living thing on spaceship Earth. That's what I'm okay.
The way I see it is, there is nothing that I don't consider anything to have happened to be wrong.
Right.
This is all part of the process.
It's part of the process. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have been given all these tools that allow, for instance, you and me to talk, even though we are separated by almost 1,000 miles.
Right. Right.
We are talking. So that kind of technology and that kind of ability will still be necessary for the purpose of making sure that our planet is healthy.
Right.
So that's the larger purpose. So within that larger purpose, all these tools will be used, okay, for the same, for whatever function they're necessary for.
Makes sense.
And so Donna Meadows actually, in her systems analysis, she said that 95% of human activities today are unnecessary and wasteful. And what she meant by that is that we do a lot of things where we are literally breaking things and fixing it.
Right.
Okay? Deliberately breaking things and fixing it because we want to increase the flow. That's what we are maximizing the flow.
Mm-hmm.
That's how our company will get more and more revenues.
Right.
So we are optimizing it for the wrong objective function. But in the process, we have created all these tools and technologies to optimize it for this objective function. Now we need to deploy those tools and technologies for this other purpose, which is to heal the planet.
Right.
And to bring back life.
So,
and so all of our technology is still useful.
As you communicate your message, where are you seeing getting the most resonance? What population? What part of the world? What generational level is responding to your message?
I'm finding that it is across the board, that people like this story where we do belong exactly as we are, and that we are transforming from a climate heating system to a climate healing system.
Mm-hmm.
So a climate heating civilization to a climate healing civilization. Okay, so that seems to resonate with everyone that I speak to, regardless of their age, regardless of where I'm speaking. People like that, like
Mm-hmm.
the idea that there is no one to blame. There is no finger pointing necessary. But it is, now saying, okay, how do you take care of each other? Yeah. Because I say that climate healing is an engineering project.
Right.
Whereas climate heating, anybody could do it. You just burn the damn thing, right?
Right. Right. Right.
It's just kill and burn. I mean, you don't need to do much for that. You don't need to organize for that, right?
I think one of the key things that you said there just a moment ago was that in looking at this climate healing concept, if I can use that term, you're not pointing fingers at anybody. We're not saying, oh, you're this, it's like, and I think the other point that you made earlier is also right. As a species, we are progressing. We've moved forward. We're a lot different than we were 10,000 years ago, okay?
Right.
In terms of how the things that we're capable of, our cognitive abilities, and all sorts of things. And that's really, progress. As we mature as a species, we're recognizing more and more things that we could do differently. But everything that had to happen to get us here is just that. It's what had to happen to get us here. So I think those two things, not trying to approach this from a blame perspective, and also recognizing that it's part of the progression of things is really critical, because a lot of the those enclaves of individuals and groups that are say that they're looking to have an impact on the sustainability, on the initiative, are doing it from a perspective of blame and attempting to to do things that are going to damage somebody else's situation.
Right.
And I think that's the wrong approach, because that just creates a counterforce and resistance, and that's not the path to truth, I don't think.
Yeah, it isn't. And also, I say that, we have to model this. And this is why I came up with the burning machine and the killing machine, and modeled the impact of those machines on the climate of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then based on that, we see that there is a solution that allows us to restore the climate of the planet. Okay.
Got it.
And that solution requires us to shut down the killing machine as quickly as possible, and then turn down the burning machine gradually over time in the next 33 years, something like that.
Got it.
So, and when we do that, it is optimum in the sense of how much heating that we have to endure.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We can minimize the heating that we have to endure by doing that.
Fantastic.
So I say that when we start implementing these kinds of solutions and people are all working together on seeing this happen real time,
Right.
seeing the climate stabilize, seeing the CO2 levels come down over time. My God, this is part of the excitement of life, right? We are actually doing something amazing.
Our opportunity for the future. We got just about 2 minutes left, and then we have to sign off for good today. Quick question: are you you were just in Asia? Do you have any speaking engagements? Are there any events or something that, whether it's online or in person, that you're going to be at here in North America that our audience might be interested in tuning into?
Yeah, I would like people to join and participate in World Food Healers Day, which is happening November 19th of this year.
Okay.
And it is saying, let us create a food system in which healthy food is given away for free.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Okay, because that is the new pillar. Food Healers is the new pillar of the third pillar of the new system.
Right.
And so we can start doing that right away. We can start building that, everything you need to give out healthy food for free.
Okay. Fantastic. And what's the date of that?
November 19th.
November 19th, and I'm sure people can find out about that on your website, right?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Good. All right. So we've got to wrap up now. Folks, I hope you've learned something. I've learned a lot in this conversation, so I hope you have too. And again, if you have any questions, send them in to info@referencepointtv.com and go to his website and check out the November 19th event. I'm going to do that myself because I think it sounds like a great idea. So, Salish, again, thank you so much for coming and being on my show again. It's great to talk to you and to see you again. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time on Reference Point.